Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Yael's footsteps echoed off weathered brick buildings as he wandered deeper into the old, deserted neighborhood. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool evening air. He'd only meant to take a short walk to clear his head after moving to this new town, but now found himself hopelessly lost. Crumbling facades loomed on either side of the narrow street. Broken windows stared like empty eye sockets. Yael quickened his pace, heart racing. He needed to find his way back to the main road before full dark set in. A figure emerged from the gloom ahead, an elderly man with a cane, his wrinkled face half hidden by shadow. Yael approached cautiously. "Excuse me, sir, I seem to be a bit turned around. Could you point me towards downtown?" The old man's milky eyes fixed on Yael. A slow smile spread across his weathered features. "Ah, a newcomer! How delightful!" His voice creaked like old floorboards. "What you seek lies just ahead, young man. Follow this street to its end. You'll find what you're looking for there." "Thank you," Yael said, relieved. He hurried past the old man, who chuckled softly behind him. The street wound on, buildings pressing close on either side. Just as Yael began to doubt the old man's directions, the alley opened into a small courtyard. At its center stood an imposing stone building, windows glowing with warm yellow light. Yael hesitated. This couldn't be right. But the building beckoned, promising answers and a way home. He climbed the steps and pushed open the heavy wooden door. Inside, a corridor stretched as far as the eye could see. Identical doors lined both walls, spaced at regular intervals. The hallway seemed to go on forever, defying the laws of physics. Yael's head spun. This was impossible. He turned to leave, but the door had vanished. Only an endless expanse of corridor remained. Heart pounding, he took a tentative step forward. The floor creaked beneath his feet. Yael forced himself to breathe deeply, fighting back panic. There had to be a way out. He just needed to stay calm and think logically. One of the doors to his right stood slightly ajar. Golden light spilled from the crack, warm and inviting. Without conscious thought, Yael found himself drawn towards it. His hand closed around the brass doorknob. He pushed it open. Blinding light engulfed him. Yael's body tingled as if every cell was rearranging itself. The sensation lasted only moments before fading. He blinked, disoriented. The endless corridor had vanished. Instead, Yael found himself standing in a cozy bedroom. Sunlight streamed through gauzy curtains. The air smelled of lavender and fresh laundry. Mommy, wake up!" A small body launched itself onto the bed, bouncing excitedly. Yael stared in shock at the little girl with pigtails and gap-toothed grin. She couldn't be more than 5 or 6 years old. "Come on, Mommy," the child whined. "You promised we'd go to the park today." Yael opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. That wasn't his voice. It was higher, softer. He looked down at himself. Long chestnut hair spilled over slim shoulders. The t-shirt he wore clung to unfamiliar curves. With trembling hands, he felt his face. Delicate features, full lips, high cheekbones. This wasn't his body. "Natasha?" A deep male voice called from another room. "Honey, are you up yet? I made breakfast." The little girl tugged on Natasha's arm. "Come on, Mommy, Daddy made pancakes." Yael's mind reeled. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a dream. He pinched himself hard enough to leave a red mark on soft feminine skin. The pain felt all too real. I'll be right there, sweetie," he managed to say in Natasha's lilting voice. "Why don't you go help Daddy set the table?" The child bounced off the bed and scampered out of the room. Yael stumbled to the mirror hanging on the closet door. A beautiful woman in her early 30s stared back at him. Long brown hair framed an oval face with wide green eyes and full lips. The body was slender but curvy in all the right places. Yael ran his hands over unfamiliar contours, marveling at how different everything felt. The weight on his chest, the narrowness of his waist, the swell of hips beneath silky pajamas. This was madness. How could he have become someone else entirely? A woman, a wife, a mother. He needed to think, to figure out what was happening and how to get back to his own body. But right now, there was a family waiting for him. For Natasha. Yael took a deep breath, squaring slim shoulders. He had to play along for now. Act natural until he could sort this out. Fumbling through drawers, he found a bra and struggled to put it on. It took several attempts to hook the clasp. He pulled on a floral sundress, marveling at how the fabric draped over feminine curves. A quick brush through long hair, a swipe of lip gloss, and he was as ready as he'd ever be. Yael made his way to the kitchen on unsteady legs, still getting used to the new center of gravity. A handsome man stood at the stove, flipping pancakes. The little girl sat at the table, swinging her legs as she sipped orange juice. "There's my beautiful wife," the man said with a warm smile. He crossed the kitchen and planted a kiss on Yael's lips. Yael froze, unsure how to respond. The man, Natasha's husband, pulled back with a puzzled look. "Everything okay, honey? You seem a little out of it this morning." "I'm fine," Yael said quickly. "Just didn't sleep well. Bad dreams." The man's brow furrowed with concern. "Why don't you sit down? I'll bring you some coffee." Yael sank into a chair, head spinning. The little girl, his daughter now, he supposed, chattered excitedly about the park. He nodded and smiled, trying to follow the conversation. "So, what do you have planned for today?" the husband asked as he set a steaming mug in front of Yael. Yael's mind raced. He had no idea what Natasha's daily routine looked like. "Oh, you know, the usual," he said vaguely. "Maybe some errands. And the park, of course." The man nodded. "Don't forget your book club meeting this afternoon. And Sophia has her dance class at 4. Yael's stomach clenched. How was he supposed to navigate all this? He didn't even know where anything was in this town. "Right, of course," he said weakly. "How could I forget?" Breakfast passed in a blur. Yael picked at his food, too anxious to eat. He watched the family interact, trying to glean clues about Natasha's life and personality. The husband, Mark, Yael learned, seemed kind and attentive. He refilled Yael's coffee without being asked and made sure their daughter, Sophia, ate all her breakfast before running off to play. "I'd better get going," Mark said, glancing at his watch. "Have a good day, sweetheart. I'll pick up Sophia from dance class on my way home from work." Yael nodded mutely. As soon as the front door closed behind Mark, he slumped in his chair. This was all too much. How long would he be trapped in this body, this life? And what had happened to the real Natasha? He wandered through the house, taking in his surroundings. Family photos lined the walls. Natasha beamed from every frame, arms around Mark or cuddling Sophia. They looked so happy together. In the master bedroom, Yael rifled through Natasha's closet and dresser. Flowing dresses, lacy lingerie, jewelry boxes filled with delicate necklaces and sparkling earrings. It was a whole new world of femininity he'd never experienced before. He found Natasha's phone on the nightstand and unlocked it with the fingerprint scanner. Text messages and social media gave him a clearer picture of her life. She worked part-time as an elementary school teacher, volunteered at an animal shelter, had a close circle of friends she met regularly for yoga and book club. Yael's head throbbed. How was he supposed to step into this woman's shoes and fool everyone around him? He barely knew how to walk in this body, let alone teach a class or discuss literature. A timer on the phone reminded him it was time to take Sophia to the park. Yael found the little girl in her room, surrounded by dolls and stuffed animals. "Ready to go, sweetie?" he asked, hoping his nervousness didn't show. Sophia bounced up, grabbing a small backpack. "Can we get ice cream at the park, Mommy? Pretty please?" Yael hesitated. Would Natasha allow that? "We'll see," he hedged. "If you're good." They walked hand in hand down tree-lined streets. Yael let Sophia lead the way, praying the child wouldn't notice anything amiss. At the playground, he settled onto a bench and watched her scramble over jungle gyms and race down slides. Other mothers gathered nearby, chatting and laughing. One waved to Yael. "Natasha, come join us." Panic fluttered in his chest. He forced a smile and shook his head. "Maybe in a bit. I'm not feeling great today." The woman frowned. "Are you okay? You look a little pale." "Just a headache," Yael lied. "I'll be fine." He breathed a sigh of relief when she turned back to her friends. Crisis averted. For now. But he couldn't avoid people forever. Sooner or later, someone would realize he wasn't really Natasha. The morning dragged on. Yael bought Sophia an ice cream cone, earning a squeal of delight. He wiped sticky hands and face, marveling at the bond between mother and child. Even though he'd only known her for a few hours, he felt fiercely protective of this little girl. Back home, he managed to cobble together lunch from leftovers in the fridge. Sophia chattered about her friends at school and an upcoming ballet recital. Yael nodded and smiled, trying to keep up with the conversation. After lunch came the dreaded book club meeting. Yael's stomach churned as he dropped Sophia off with a neighbor and drove to an unfamiliar address. He'd skimmed the book's summary online, but had no idea what to expect. 5 women greeted him warmly as he entered the cozy living room. Yael perched on the edge of an armchair, clutching his purse like a lifeline. "So, what did everyone think of this month's selection?" the hostess asked once they'd all settled in with tea and cookies. Yael's mind went blank. He fumbled for something to say. "It was very thought-provoking," he offered lamely. The other women nodded in agreement. To Yael's relief, they launched into a lively discussion without pressing him further. He listened intently, gleaning enough to make a few safe comments. As the meeting wound down, one of the women touched his arm. "Natasha, are you feeling all right? You've been awfully quiet today." Yael mustered a wan smile. "Just tired," he said. "Sophia kept me up half the night with bad dreams." Sympathetic murmurs rippled through the group. Yael relaxed slightly, grateful for the ready-made excuse. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of errands and household chores. Yael cobbled together a simple dinner from ingredients he found in the pantry. By the time Mark arrived home with Sophia, he felt utterly drained. "How was your day, honey?" Mark asked. "Fine," Yael said quickly. "Nothing exciting. How was work?" As Mark launched into a story about office politics, Yael's mind wandered. How long could he keep up this charade? And more importantly, how could he get back to his own body and life? That night, after Sophia was tucked into bed, Yael faced a new challenge. Mark emerged from the bathroom in boxers and a t-shirt, a hungry look in his eyes. "The little one's asleep," he said, voice low and suggestive. "How about we have some alone time?" Yael's heart raced. He wasn't ready for this, wasn't sure he'd ever be ready to be intimate in a woman's body. I'm not feeling well," he stammered. "Cramps. Really bad cramps." Mark's face fell, but he nodded understandingly. "Of course, sweetheart. Can I get you anything? Heating pad, Advil?" Yael shook his head. "I just need to sleep it off." "Rain check? Of course." Mark kissed his forehead. "Feel better." Yael lay awake long after Mark's breathing evened out into soft snores. His mind raced, searching for a way out of this impossible situation. But no matter how he looked at it, he was trapped. In this body, this life, this family that depended on him. Days stretched into weeks. Yael settled into a routine, growing more comfortable in Natasha's skin. He learned to apply makeup, style long hair, walk in heels. The physical aspects of femininity became second nature, but the emotional side was harder to navigate. Yael found himself overwhelmed by Natasha's life, the constant demands of motherhood, the intimacy of marriage, the web of female friendships. He threw himself into Natasha's roles, determined to do right by this family he'd inherited. Teaching came more easily than expected. Yael discovered a knack for connecting with young minds, nurturing their curiosity and creativity. At home, he reveled in Sophia's unconditional love. Bath times and bedtime stories became treasured rituals. He marveled at the child's quick mind and kind heart, feeling a swell of pride at each small accomplishment. Yael ached to confide in someone, to explain the impossible situation he found himself in. But who would believe such a fantastical tale? He'd be labeled insane, locked away in a psych ward. And what would happen to Sophia then? So he soldiered on alone, playing the roles of wife and mother to the best of his ability. Some days were easier than others. Yael found genuine joy in many aspects of Natasha's life. Other times, crushing loneliness and dysphoria threatened to overwhelm him. Months passed, seasons changed. Yael watched Sophia grow taller, lose baby teeth, master new skills. He cheered at dance recitals and helped with homework, kissed scraped knees and chased away nightmares. His relationship with Mark remained strained. They operated like friendly roommates, co-parenting Sophia but lacking the intimacy of a married couple. Yael caught Mark watching him sometimes with a mix of longing and confusion. "What happened to us?" Mark asked one night as they sat on opposite ends of the couch. "You've been so distant lately. Did I do something wrong?" Yael's heart clenched. "No, of course not. You've been wonderful." He struggled to find the right words. "I'm just going through some things, trying to figure myself out." Mark reached for his hand. "Whatever it is, we can work through it together. I love you, Natasha. Nothing will ever change that." Tears pricked Yael's eyes. The depth of Mark's love for his wife was evident. A love Yael could never truly return, trapped as he was in this borrowed body. "I love you too," he whispered. The words felt hollow on his tongue. As their first wedding anniversary in this new life approached, Yael knew he had to make a decision. He couldn't keep living this lie. It wasn't fair to Mark or Sophia, or to himself. The night before their anniversary, Yael sat Mark down after Sophia was in bed. His palms were sweaty, heart racing. This conversation would change everything. "I need to tell you something," he began hesitantly. "It's going to sound crazy, impossible even, but I swear it's the truth." Mark's brow furrowed with concern. "Natasha, what's going on? You're scaring me?" Yael took a deep breath. "I'm not Natasha, not really." He held up a hand as Mark started to interrupt. "Please, let me finish. This is hard enough as it is." Over the next hour, Yael poured out the whole fantastical tale. His walk through the old neighborhood, the endless corridor, waking up in Natasha's body. Mark listened in stunned silence, emotions playing across his face. Disbelief, anger, fear, grief. "I know how insane this sounds," Yael finished. "But it's the truth. I've been living a lie all these months, trying to be the wife and mother you deserved. But I can't do it anymore. It's not fair to any of us." Mark sat motionless, staring at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know what to say. Part of me wants to think this is some elaborate joke, or that you've had some kind of mental break." He looked up, meeting Yael's eyes. "But it explains so much. The changes in your personality, the distance between us." "I'm so sorry," Yael said, voice cracking. "I never meant to hurt you or Sophia. I tried my best to be what you needed." Mark nodded slowly. "I believe you. As impossible as it seems, I believe you." He ran a hand through his hair. "So what happens now?" Yael's shoulders slumped. "I don't know. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how to get back to my old body. But I'm starting to think that's impossible." "And the real Natasha?" Mark asked. "Is she—" "I don't know," Yael admitted. "Maybe she's in my body somewhere. Maybe she's just gone." The thought sent a chill through him. Had he essentially killed this woman by taking over her life? They talked late into the night, hashing out what this meant for their family. In the end, they agreed to take things day by day. Mark needed time to process this revelation, and they both worried about how it would affect Sophia. As dawn broke, Yael felt a weight lift from his shoulders. No more secrets, no more pretending. Whatever came next, at least he could face it honestly. In the weeks that followed, Yael and Mark navigated their new reality. They presented a united front to the outside world, not ready to share the truth with anyone else. But in private, they worked to redefine their relationship. Mark mourned the loss of his wife, grieving for the woman he'd loved for so many years. Yael supported him as best he could, giving him space when needed and lending a sympathetic ear other times. They told Sophia a simplified version of events, explaining that Mommy was going through some big changes. The little girl adapted with the resilience of childhood, accepting Yael's new quirks and personality shifts without question. Slowly, a new normal emerged. Yael and Mark developed a deep friendship, bonded by their shared secret and love for Sophia. They co-parented as a team, supporting each other through the challenges of raising a precocious child. Yael found unexpected freedom in embracing his true self within Natasha's body. He explored new interests and hobbies, no longer feeling constrained by societal expectations of femininity. Martial arts classes built strength and confidence in his new physical form. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Yael still had moments of dysphoria and longing for his old life, but he also found joy and purpose in this new existence. Sophia's love anchored him, giving him a reason to keep pushing forward. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.